is going on, everybody? Welcome to Party on Broad. Today, we are talking 2024 NFL Draft. And if there's anything we've learned about the Philadelphia Bulldogs, Eagles, over the last couple of years, is they love themselves some SEC prospects. Joining me for the first time as the official co-host of Party on Broad, he is Ryan Reese. Does an amazing job at Philly Sports Alliance. Find them on Facebook, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. What's going on, Ryan?
Not much, man. Excited to dive into next year's draft. After all the fun we had this past draft season, we took a little time off, but we're raring to go and ready to start talking about 2024.
I love it, man. Let's jump right in. Let's waste no time here. Leading off, number one in the SEC, he is Brock Bowers, man. This is a guy who's got rapid accelerative capacity, physicality, contact balance in the open field, man. A guy who dominates in open space. He averaged 15 yards per reception and also added 109 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. Let me get my graphic on Brock Bowers up. There he is. This dude caught 7 passes for 152 yards in the national championship game against TCU. 6'4", 230 pounds, explosive athleticism. This guy has a knack for finding soft spots in the open field. There's been a lot of talk about Kyle Pitts and how he compares. I don't know if you guys watched any of my draft shows in the past. Kyle Pitts is one of the best tight end prospects I've ever seen. So that is a huge compliment. You got to talk about, Stetson Bennett, Todd Monken being gone from Georgia this year. So can Bowers adjust? I think he can. I think he's going to have a monster season in 2023 and cement himself as a top 5 pick. I'll throw it to you, Ryan. Thoughts on Brock Bowers?
Yeah, Kyle Pitts, I'm glad you brought him up, was definitely one of the better tight end prospects that I think people have seen in many, many years. And the fact that people are not only comparing him to Pitts, but also some have him higher than Pitts. And it's simply just because he just has his route running ability is honestly is amazing for what he's done so far in college. He's totaled up over 1,800 yards and 20 touchdowns in his first 2 seasons. He is a mismatch nightmare. And yeah, he really is, on a collision course for a top 5 pick at this point. I think whoever is going to get him is going to get an amazing prospect. And like I said, one of the better prospects in tight end that we've seen in quite some time, obviously with Pitts being the other one. So, I just love watching this guy play. He just has like you said, a knack for kind of just being open and just getting that separation that he needs. And defenders just don't really know what to do with him right now. So, hopefully they're watching a lot more tape than we are and planning for him. But, I'm excited to see what he does this year in college football. So,
blue chip prospect, one of the highest floors in the entire draft. I think it's going to be a top 5 pick, maybe top 3 selection. That's how good he is. Let's jump into number 2. And that is J.C. Latham, offensive tackle out of Alabama. We're going to be talking about a lot of Alabama over the next several minutes here. Let me get my thing up here. J.C. Latham, let's talk about him. You saw a lot of really strong right tackle prospects like Darnell Wright and DeJuan Jones in 2023. But here's another good one for you. This is a guy who was a top 3 recruit in the 2021 recruiting class. He's one of the 2 biggest leaders for Alabama in 2023. The other guy we're going to be talking about from Bama's defense momentarily, but Latham's athleticism and play strength at 6'6", 335 pounds is elite as it gets. He was an elite pass protector at right tackle for Alabama in 2022 as a sophomore. earning an 84.5 pass blocking grade on true pass sets. That was fourth best among all tackles in the country per PFF. On 486 pass blocking snaps, he only allowed one hit and did not give up a single sack. He's a former basketball player and moves with the agility and explosiveness that his background suggests. He sinks and bends with ease, has really good flexibility, has no problem with countering multiple moves from defenders. He's moving to left tackle for Alabama in 2023, and he's playing behind a new offensive coordinator in Tommy Rees, as well as a new quarterback who we don't really know who that is yet. So it's going to be a busy spring and summer for J.C. Latham. But Ryan, what are your thoughts on J.C. Latham?
Yeah, I mean, he just his elite physical tools just kind of jump off the page. I mean, like you said, he's 6'6", 335 pounds. He's very physical. He's kind of he has this explosiveness, with his movements that just doesn't seem natural for a guy his size. He's quite nimble, and he's really just kind of following in the Alabama offensive line, footsteps here, so to speak. They just they just produce offensive linemen. And yeah, I think when kind of doing research on Latham, I feel like not a lot of people are as high as they should be on this guy. Some people kind of have him a little bit lower on their lists, but when we talked about this, we both had Latham really high. So I'm not sure exactly where the maybe the hate comes from, or the undecidedness on his abilities, but I think he's just going to continue the Alabama offensive line dominance. And like I said, he's very physical. He's very explosive. He's quick. There's not much that you can't really love about this guy.
Yep. You look at Peter Skoronski. I mean, there was some really solid offensive linemen, but there are three bangers at tackle in the 2024 draft. J.C. Latham is one of them. The other two is Joe Alt for Notre Dame and Olu Fashanu out of Penn State. I think all three of those guys have potential to be top 10 picks eventually, assuming this guy transitions well to left tackle and J.C. Latham. So great prospect, Ryan. Love this guy. Let's jump into number 3, and that is, let's drink the Kool-Aid. Let's do it. He is Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback out of Alabama, man. This guy's coming off a sophomore campaign that included 18 forced incompletions. That tied for second among all cornerbacks in the country per PFF. He was one of 4 starting SEC corners last year to hold opposing quarterbacks below a 47% completion rate on targeted throws. Let me get my graphic up. There's Kool-Aid. This guy got great size and length, 6'1", 188 pounds, great short area athleticism, good technique, great footwork. He's a technician. He can mirror receivers at every level of the route. He has a length to jar receivers at the catch point. And he's also not just a cornerback. He led all Power 5 players with 332 punt return yards. So he's got that ability to get instant minutes, instant time, playing time on the football field from day one in the NFL. You look at this guy, he's got a lot of physicality to him. That foundation, I think, gives him one of the highest floors in the NFL. And he's tested, man. You look at, you kind of compare the best cornerback last year in Devin Witherspoon to this guy. Devin Witherspoon had 17 credited pass breakups last year on 62 targets in conference play. McKinstry had 16 pass breakups on 80 targets in SEC play. So this guy was more targeted than Devin Witherspoon. And I think we have a long way to go when it comes to who is CB1 in the 2024 draft. But I think this guy absolutely is leading the pack. Any thoughts on Kool-Aid?
Yeah, I mean, obviously one of the cooler names of the draft. I mean, he's coming into his junior year, as you said, 15 pass deflections. I'm really excited to kind of see what he kind of does in his junior year here. And that's the beauty of all this is we still have to play a full college season here. So he's also was pretty good in the punt return game. Um, I think he averaged just under 16 yards per return. And yeah, I think he right now has to be your top corner coming into the draft. I mean, obviously, we saw how much that can change, but I think for Kool-Aid, I think just given his abilities and just his versatility, I don't see him, falling down that list at all. And I think he could easily be a top 10 pick for a team that's desperate for a number one corner. So I just think it's not going to be a very deep cornerback class just from the looks of it right now. So he definitely has an opportunity here to really supplant himself as the number one corner coming into the draft. So
Mhm.
um, yeah, I fully expect him to continue and to hold on to that coming
Yeah.
up to the draft for sure.
When we get into our Big Ten rankings next week, he's got two solid competitors at the cornerback position, and Kalen King out of Penn State,
Mhm.
who's our flat-out stud, and Cooper DeJean out of Iowa. Both guys are big-time playmakers as well. So that's number 3. Let's go into number 4, sticking with Alabama back to back to back here. It is Dallas Turner, linebacker, edge rusher. Dallas Turner, not a guy who's as powerful or strong as Will Anderson Jr., who was a flat out stud for Bama the last few years. But he's got a unique mold in his own right. He has versatility. He has great closing speed. He can swallow up runners in pursuit. He can cover a ton of ground in the box or when he drops back into coverage. I think what I like most about Dallas Turner, let me get my graphic up. There it is. What I like most about Dallas Turner is there's a positionless element to his game. He can attack the quarterback. He can thrive in coverage. He played all 13 games last year, including 10 starts. Once this dude started for Alabama, he never looked back. He tallied 37 tackles, 8 stops for loss, 4 sacks, 9 quarterback pressures, and returned a fumble for a touchdown. I think this is a guy, if everything clicks in 2023, has top 5 pick potential in next year's draft, and I think he's due for a monster season. Any thoughts on Dallas Turner, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean he's coming into this season essentially trying to fill Will Anderson's shoes, which is a big task for sure. But at 6'4", 240, over the last 2 years, he's totaled 12 and a half sacks and 18 tackles for loss. He really has very high level to elite bursts. He has amazing bends, and his kind of ability to mix in the speed with the power is pretty nice in the college game, and can be pretty destructive. So I think he has a long way to certainly fill those shoes, but I think a great season at Alabama, he could be right there and kind of be considered in the same fashion as Anderson for this upcoming draft, kind of that top 5 potential draft pick here for sure.
Yep. Biggest competition is Jared Verse, who returned to school. Jared Verse
Right.
would have been a first rounder in this year's draft. 2023. But he's returning to Florida State. So I think he's edge 1 in this draft right now. But Turner's going to get a lot more snaps in 2023. So it's going to be really interesting there. Let's jump to LSU here. LSU is absolutely loaded this season with Harold Perkins, but we're not going to talk about Perkins because he's not draft eligible yet. Harold Perkins will be a top 10 pick when he is eligible because he's incredible. But the guy we're talking today is Malik Nabers, wide receiver. He's got legit speed. He's an amazing threat downfield. He can offset and stack defensive backs with ease. Unbelievable run after the catch ability for his size. This is a guy who can stop on a dime. Get my neighbor's graphic up. There it is. He is a guy I think is going to dominate the draft process and the combine when that time comes. He reportedly ran a 4.4 40-yard dash, a 38-inch vertical in high school. He plays with physicality in the air. He can also track offline deep throws without losing any velocity. He reached 1,000 yards receiving last year, played his best ball in the final few games. With him and Jaden Daniels, I think the sky is the limit. He's a great route runner who can effortlessly flow to passes with his hands. And after the catch, man, the guy is just straight dynamic, as we said. Ryan, what's your thoughts on Malik Neighbors?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably mention the long line of LSU wide receivers here, but I think he could be the next great one to come out of Louisiana for sure. He has legitimate speed. He's a threat down the field. His yak ability is pretty dominant. And just considering his size as well, he really seems to kind of have this unique flexibility about his route running and his catching. And yeah, I think there's always going to be a little hype with when any LSU wide receiver comes up here, but I think Neighbors has the ability to kind of rise above that and really take that to the next level in this upcoming season. Definitely excited to kind of, there's obviously some really great wide receiver prospects. So he might get lost in the shuffle when it comes to, the overall wide receiver group here. But yeah, I still think he's going to be kind of one of those sneaky good wide receiver prospects that, wherever he ends up going in the NFL will really get a nice threat in the passing game.
That's where I was at too, man. Like when you think of like Malik Neighbors, like that's going to be who knows how this college football season plays out, and it's way too early for these. We're going to redo all of these rankings as the season progresses and before the draft process, and even after the draft process, like we did this year. But sitting behind Marvin Harrison Jr., who's going to be arguably one of the greatest wide receivers in college football history. I'm saying that now. I think he's that good. 6'4", can do everything: route running, hands. He's a sneaky athletic, he has sneaky speed downfield. And then you got Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State as well, who I think is a more physical Jackson Smith and Jigba, who was my number one wide receiver in last year's draft or this year's draft a few months ago. So, I mean, it's loaded. Wide receivers. I mean, this draft is the opposite of last year's draft, where there's just a plethora of offensive playmakers, man. It's really interesting.
Yeah, right. I think Neighbors might get lost in the shuffle here, just given the bigger names here. But yeah, I still think he can end up being a really good surprise pick for somebody.
I agree, man. All right, let's jump into number 6. Sticking with LSU here, we are talking about Mason Smith, defensive tackle out of LSU. I think the question is whether or not Mason Smith can come back to 100% after missing most of 2022 with a torn ACL. Expectations were through the roof in 2022 for Mason Smith until he suffered a knee injury in the season opener while celebrating a play. If he returns healthy, man, this guy has definite first-round potential. 6'5", 300 pounds, overwhelming power profile, man. Great closing bursts. Plays with urgency in pursuit. He has high energy athleticism and a hot motor. Has no problem just dominating through contact and getting to the quarterback, man. I think if he's healthy, again, that's a big if. But playing in a rotation with Mekhi Wingo, who's a super underrated prospect in his own right, I think that's going to allow Mason Smith to kind of get freed up and do what he does best, which is disrupt in the backfield. And it's important to note that 2 weeks ago, it was announced that Mason Smith was fully cleared for football activities, and he took part in individual drills, man, during spring camp. Let me get up my Mason Smith. There it is. Ryan, any thoughts on Mason Smith, man? This guy's a beast.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. He's just a monster. He's a big dude. He just is super powerful. And yeah, it's 100% gonna, his return from injury is really gonna determine whether or not he can be a first round prospect here. I think if he is 100% good to go, I don't think there's any question that this guy is gonna just eat up running backs and quarterbacks this upcoming season. So, um, yeah, I think like you said, he has a really high floor. I'm just impressed with his power. Honestly, he just seems to have this ability. When you look at film from back in 2021, where he had 4 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. Just again, you just saw the power. Just he would just move people like they were nothing. So, yeah, I think if he continues, and like I said, that injury, he's past that. He could absolutely be one of the best interior defensive linemen to come out for this upcoming year.
Yeah, he's in a tough race. Good class of defensive tackles this year. Johnny Newton out of Illinois is going to make some noise this year. Michael Hall Jr. out of Ohio State is an absolute monster. But again, if he's healthy and plays as expected, man, Mason Smith, man, is my number one right now, even with the injury concerns. I think he's that much of a beast.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about a transfer here. That is Tony Grimes out of Texas A&M. He came from North Carolina after accumulating 16 pass deflections pick over the 2021 and 2022 campaigns. He transferred to Texas A&M this year, looking to follow Jalen Jones's footsteps this year. He's actually Texas A&M's highest rated transfer of all time. That's how great of a prospect this dude is. He is a former 5-star recruit, high end athleticism, great length, plays with patience, plays with focus. He logged a hold on. He brings a really good blend of like effortless acceleration and fluidity, natural mover, and playmaking skills. Good size at 6 foot, 195 pounds with room to grow. Started 10 games for UNC in 2022. Had a forced fumble. He did register 4 flags, so we need to note that. And Pro Football Focus says he allowed 51% of all throws to be completed versus him, and a quarterback rating against of 97. Not the greatest, but he's a big corner, really good speed. If you who could press you at the line of scrimmage, I think that's what he's going to do best at the next level. And he's also a really good tackler. He still needs to work on his instincts, and he still needs to work on his discipline. But I think the sky is the limit for Tony Grimes. He's going to get tested, man, in the SEC. So he's got a lot of pedigree, and he's going to be one to watch in 2023. Any thoughts on Tony Grimes?
Yeah, I think when looking at Grimes, I see the same thing. It's the ceiling on this kid could be through the roof. He seems to have that natural athleticism. He seems to have pretty good ball instincts, and he's got really good size as well. He's a little raw. He's got to clean up a lot of things, some things as you said. But again, I like his athleticism. I like his kind of fluidity as he plays, and I just think you're right. This upcoming season is going to be huge for him. He's going to go up against some really great wide receivers, and if he shows up, this could cement him as a one of the best corners in this draft. And it's certainly obviously we all already talked about Kool-Aid here, but there's certainly room to move up into that top corner conversation for sure. So he's going to have the opportunity basically, and I think if he improves on kind of some of the other things, I don't see why he couldn't do it.
Yep. Let's jump into our number 8 prospect in the SEC. Going interior offensive line with this one. And a guy who I was really high on in last year's draft, but he decided to return. And that's Cedric Van Pran, a center out of Georgia. This guy is an absolute beast. You know, you look at the last 2 years, Georgia's O-line has been simply dominant. And Cedric Van Pran is a big reason why. He's one of the biggest leaders on Georgia's roster in 2023, a vocal leader, team leader, 6'4", 310 pounds, effortless burst off the line of scrimmage, explodes into the second level instantly. And that range in that second level makes him like one of the best elite center prospects I've seen in a while, man. He's a younger prospect, only 21 years old. And again, he could have made the jump in the draft last year. With him coming back now, he's arguably the number 1 center prospect in next year's draft. Yeah. Big time recruit out of high school, elite football IQ, which speaks volumes about him being a leader on and off the football field. Wins with strength, a great lower body strength is what pops on tape. And he's nasty, man. His tape's really fun to watch. The dude just eats people in the second level. So I did a video on my favorite interior offensive lineman, and he's nasty, man. He brings a nastiness to the football field. He needs to clean up some of his hand placement. And he was also a little bit inconsistent in 2022. So he's so young and raw, and the physical tools and things like that, man. This guy is a big-time prospect. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I was looking at some film of his, the first thing that you notice is just how quick he is and how quickly he gets to the next level, to that second level. It's like, you know, it reminds me a little bit of how Jason Kelce is, where Kelce's super quick. He'll, you know, get off his first and go right to the second level, just like him. And, you know, the only thing is he's a humongous player. He's not Jason Kelce, who's a little smaller. He is a big dude. So the fact that he is, you know, doing this at such a great size is really just kind of shows his athleticism and his physicality. You know, being that he is that big and that explosive. You're right. He probably does need to improve a little bit on his strength and and some of that, because, you know, again, when, you know, he doesn't necessarily seem like he dominates, but like he's good at putting people where they need to be. So I think if he adds even more strength to that, he'll be throwing people around. So he's easily by far the best interior offensive lineman this upcoming draft. And I fully expect that to continue, especially with Georgia. Their offensive line has been pretty dominant over the last couple of years. And, you know, he's certainly a reason why over the last few of why they've been so dominant. You know, he's been just that rock in the middle for Georgia.
Yep. I definitely think he has potential. I mean, position value, it's kind of hard to sell stock on a guy like that, but he's got really good. Again, this is a really deep draft. Donovan Jackson, a guard out of Ohio State, is really good. Cooper Beebe, I had a first round 1-2 grade on Cooper Beebe out of Kansas State last year, but he decided to return to school for one more year. But Cedric Van Pran, man, he's an absolute stud. Let's go to number 9. All right, let's talk about Rocket here. A nickname can tell you a lot about a running back, and that's true about Raheem Rocket Sanders, coming off a season that saw him amass 222 carries for over 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns at Arkansas. There he is. All right, Raheem Sanders, great size and physicality at 6'2", 227 pounds. That stands out right away when you're watching tape, man. Instant accelerator. He is versatile, just an absolute beast in the open field. He can fight off would-be tacklers with stiff arms, with that physical play. And as the nickname Rocket conveys, man, He's a long strider. He can run in tight windows and just break out into open space, man. What are your thoughts on Raheem Rocket Sanders, who with KJ Jefferson has some potential?
Yeah. Now the thing that you notice is obviously he's extremely quick and explosive, but he's big and physical too. So it's like he's got a bit of everything. Yes, obviously, he can improve as a blocker. He can improve as a receiver. Those are certainly things that he's going to need to work on this upcoming season. And if again, he wants to kind of improve in the NFL, but he seems to have that natural ability. He has the natural size, and he knows how to use that size. So I think the blocking thing, improvement there will be a little bit easier for him, just given the fact that he is already pretty physical and a good size. So, yeah, I'm very intrigued about him. I feel I've been trying to kind of pinpoint who he reminds me of, and I just haven't found it yet. But he's just a big, physical, but really fast running back.
Mhm.
So yeah, he has, I feel like, a potential if he can kind of really improve in some other areas to be a hugely impactful running back in the NFL.
Yeah. Arkansas lost a lot, I believe, on offense, so he's going to be a very big focal point of that offense with KJ. I think like they lost they lost big time on the offensive line,
Offensive line, yeah.
things like that. So Arkansas is going to have to rely on his legs and his ability in the backfield. He's my number 2 running back right now. Travion Henderson out of Ohio State is my number 1. Another guy that's just an absolute beast. But yeah, I think he's a really fun prospect. Running back's loaded, man. Blake Corum out of Michigan. His teammate, who's an absolute beast in his own right, I believe Edwards.
Shipley from Clemson.
Will Shipley.
Yeah.
Yeah, running back, again, very deep. I feel like we say this every year, but like I do think is going to be one of the deepest drafts. So with that said, my man Coyle saying guard for the Eagles is good enough for me. All right, let's go into where are we at? Number 10, right?
Yeah.
And we are talking about another cornerback out of Florida. We're talking about Jason Marshall Jr., another 5-star recruit out of high school, man. 6'1", 198 pounds. He had an interception and 8 pass breakups in 2022. Prime for a breakout season in 2023. He's got really nice twitch, great athlete, tons of tools to kind of build towards. He's got, more exciting. He's got like that. This is one of those guys who's got more in the toolbox than he does on the football field. Good, a lean kind of guy, could add some muscle and strength there, but has great length, elite length. So he's just in college. He's just a dominating threat against smaller receivers. What are your thoughts on Jason Marshall Jr.?
Yeah, I mean, you said it, pretty nicely there. Yeah, he is certainly shows kind of these glimpses of, really, really unique athleticism. And at 6'1", 198, that's, to me, that's great size for a corner. And yeah, he just has this unique athleticism that you kind of can see. And it's one of those things where, like, man, if he could just put this all together, he could be, elite at the next level. And I think, again, as you look at these college kids, they're obviously not finished product. And as you get into the NFL, you still are always growing. And I think he's one of those guys that, he's always been one of the best players on the field. And I feel like it's kind of catching up to him a little bit, but now I feel like he's catching back up. And he just, again, I think he has an ability to kind of, as you said, prime kind of for a breakout this upcoming season. He has that the athleticism. It's raw. He needs to work on a bunch of stuff, but you know, you just know it when you see it, kind of thing. I don't know how else to explain it. You know, when I was looking at some highlights and other things regarding him, it just seemed a little inconsistent. But again, you see it there, and man, if he can just hold on to that, he could be a really great corner in college football this upcoming season. So I'm actually really looking forward to kind of seeing his progress throughout the year to see if he can really put it all together. Because if he can, again, it's easy first rounder for me.
I agree.
You know, with just that athleticism, it just pops out when you watch him. So.
Yeah, you know this guy's going to dominate at the combine. So again, there's our top 10: Brock Bowers, J.C. Latham, Kool-Aid, Dallas Turner, Malik Neighbors, Mason Smith, Tony Grimes, Cedric Van Pran, Rocket Sanders, and Jason Marshall Jr. We do have a couple of honorable mentions. I'll let you lead us off, Ryan, because it's the SEC, and it's just
I was going to say we could do a top 100. I mean, SEC is always going to be loaded. Yeah. So for my honorable mention, I'm going with Omar Speights, linebacker out of LSU. Shocking, I went with a linebacker. Yeah. You know, I think you know, coming over from Oregon State, transferred into LSU. He's 6'1", 237. He already has been starting at Oregon State, I believe, for 4 years. So he's you know, he's got plenty of experience. His instincts, his football IQ. These are the things that you can kind of literally see. It jumps out at you that he just has a knack for knowing where he needs to be. He's explosive. And you know, you can see his again that IQ, that awareness in him is something you just can't teach. And you know, he's really physical as well. So I think coming into LSU, you know, LSU already has a pretty amazing defense. It's only going to be you know, that much better. And honestly, I'm always looking at linebackers, and he, you know, outside of a couple in the ACC that I'm sure we'll eventually talk about. Speights is definitely one of my guys that I'm really going to be looking forward to seeing. You know, now that he's in LSU.
LSU has arguably the best linebacker duo in the NFL. I remember talking to you about, like, there's some really fun duos on team college football.
Clemson and LSU.
Clemson and freaking LSU. Yes, exactly. So you've got Omar Speights and Harold Perkins at linebacker. That's amazing. And then you look at Clemson with Barrett Carter and Jeremiah Trotter Jr., man. That duo is going to be really fun to watch. My honorable mention is a guy that actually was just outside of my top 10 quarterbacks in 2023. So I might look kind of stupid for saying that, but rightfully so. I wanted to give him a mention because I did do a video on my top 10 quarterbacks in this draft, and it's deep, as we've said many times. But the guy I'm talking about is Jayden Daniels out of LSU. You look across the SEC, you look at, you know, Joe Milton out of Tennessee. There's some guys that have some potential, like KJ Jefferson, big time upside. But let's talk about Jayden Daniels, man. I think he is an extremely efficient quarterback. Played, I mean, an amazing game against Alabama last year when they upset him in overtime. He led all quarterbacks in the country in 2022 with a 0.6% turnover-worthy play rate. That will get you instant snaps in the NFL if you're able to kind of manage and process as well as Jayden Daniels. He was the only quarterback who rushed for more than 1,000 yards, so he's a dual threat guy. And then overall, only Drake May and Caleb Williams were more valuable Power 5 quarterbacks than this guy per PFF, according to PFF. But he had over 3,800 total offensive yards last year, 29 combined touchdowns. He doesn't really take a lot of shots downfield. 8.2 yards average depth target. That was good for just 118th among FBS quarterbacks in 2022. So I'd like to kind of see him, utilize Malik Neighbors more so downfield. Because if you watch his tape, he loves to get the ball out fast. Rightfully so. I mean, why wouldn't you with that with that type of teammate that can just dominate an open field? So Jaden Daniels, it was really important for me to kind of throw his name out because I raved about Joe Milton already and other SEC quarterbacks. Who am I missing? I feel like I'm missing one more. Who else is in the SEC?
Yeah, that's what took me the longest is trying to
remember
which teams were in the SEC and which weren't.
It was KJ Jefferson. All right, so those are the big two. I mean, you look at Georgia, like they're kind of in a transition year at quarterback as well. So who knows what happens there? And Alabama, right? So it's kind of a weird position, but it's a good position. I think.
South Carolina's in
South Carolina with Spencer Rattler.
Or Spencer Rattler, right? Yeah, I'm just
trying to but he needs to show me something. He needs to show me something this year.
Yeah, no, he does. I feel like him specifically, man, he'll have great moments, and then he'll just, you'll look the next moment, you're like, wow, what is he doing? Very inconsistent. But
all right, so that wraps up our first conference prospect ranking, guys. If you like what you're watching, please give this video a like. We'll be back next week breaking down more conference rankings. I think we'll do Big Ten because the Big Ten is ridiculously loaded this year. And then we'll continue with all the Power Fives. And we'll probably finish with like a non-Power Five, like underrated type of one, which I think I would like. That's going to be a really fun show. Ryan, thanks for joining, man.
And hey, I'm glad.
Tell us about this time.
Yeah, I'm glad to be, officially involved in the draft process now. We did about 1,000 mock drafts last season, and I still think we probably could have done a lot more. Like I said, I eat this stuff up. I love it. This is an easy excuse to kind of just dive into players and positions and conferences and whatever we're doing. So I absolutely love this, and I love the fact that we're able to kind of talk about this with people and whatnot. So I'm in all the way. I love it, and we always appreciate everybody who comments and likes and follows us, and we hope that you gain something from these videos and at least have a better understanding of or at least know the names coming into the next draft process. So we love doing this. So glad to be a part of it for sure.
Man, Ryan Reese is the best of the best. Again, at Philly Sports PSA, go check out Philly Sports Alliance wherever you get your Philly sports content. And I'd put it at like a 50% chance the Eagles draft one of those guys. They finally figured it out.
They finally figured out. No Pac-12, SEC.
Nope. All right. Again, for Ryan, for myself, thank you everyone for watching. Comment down below. Let us know your favorite SEC prospects. Who did we miss out? Because there's a lot we could have continued to name. We've already gone nearly 45 minutes on this one. We'll be back again next week breaking down the Big Ten, which is going to be a really fun show. For Ryan, for myself, stay awesome, everyone.